They've requested possibly the October the 5th or the 19th, as the location would be at the East Beaches Fire Hall. And it's come forward for council to identify the 2 elected officials. And what they're suggesting is the CAO, and along with the possibly another individual, which could be maybe the deputy CAO, will make that decision. Again, it is within the RM, so a motion of council is not needed for attendance. It's just need to identify who those 2 councillors would be.
Okay, I know at one time we used to have a committee of council, but our last go around when the committees were set up, there was no committee because they hadn't met for quite some time. So
I think it's actually in the agreement that we're supposed to have.
yes, so many meetings, but of course we weren't having those meetings. And I really don't recall who was on the committee. Councillor Sutherland, might you recall?
I can't recall because there was no.
Because there was no meeting, so are there any councillors that are interested in attending, like Ward 2 councillors or Ward 1, wherever? It doesn't make any difference. I guess the date is kind of open for now.
October 5th or October 19th.
Right, and I think those are both Mondays, if I remember correctly.
Can't do something.
Could be fun.
I'll go just to learn more about it, because I don't really know much.
Okay.
Especially the budget part.
As far as the, like, for how they budget.
Yeah, well, where do you
Equipment.
extraordinary.
Can you send 3? Send the 3 from the Word?
Good. I don't think they'd have any problem with that, so then let's just send the Ward 2 councillors, the 3 Ward 2 councillors. Everybody's good with that?
Yes.
And all of you are open to both of those dates right now, I suppose, but by the time it rolls around, pass me a pen out of my drawer.
Madam Mayor, once the date is confirmed with the other side, what I'll do is I'll send an invite to all 3 councillors.
Sure, that sounds like a plan. Thank you so much, Deepak.
That way one can go to.
2 will be there for sure.
That's a good suggestion, Ward 2 councillors.
Didn't you not want to go, councillor?
I could go and it would be a lot of fun.
You know the whole agreement, they started reading it, you probably wrote it.
But it's better that you guys go.
Okay, so we've established who's going to go to that one. So now we're on number 6 on our agenda, and that is the new embedded business. And the first item we have is our South St. Clement's Activity Center site work tender. And I believe our CAO, Deepak, has a few words to say on that. Notice I said few.
I'll try to keep this one to a few
No,
words.
that's okay.
As you know, we went out for tender. The intent here was, this was identified, the South St. Clement's Center has been identified, Activity Center has been identified as part of our ISIP grant to the federal government. And what we were looking at was beginning some of that work, especially some of the site work and the construction of a pond. The tender went out and closed on August the 18th. And 4 bidders had been submitted applications. Before I get into the details of the bidders, what I wanted to highlight was that as part of this process, during the time that the tender went out, we also discovered that the province had opened up the opportunity to make application for the COVID resiliency program to the Winnipeg Metro region, and we received a $2.7 million grant. So this was a $900,000 project that would have been applied to the ISIP grant, but since we had included all these costs into the request for the $2.7 million, those were approved. So one of the things that I had to verify was that since the tender went out shortly before the announcement was made, would the costs be covered by the province of Manitoba. We've confirmed as of yesterday the costs will be covered, and so that provides a proper savings, and then we don't have to go out and re-tender this, because all these costs are part of the 2.7 million. So it's only a percentage of the cost, and I'll speak to the rest of the project in my CAO report. So in that, what we have is four submissions, and the lowest bidder is Trico Projects Limited. It has been reviewed by our consultant who's been assigned to the project to make sure that the bid met all the requirements and that the bidder is capable of providing those services. And it has come below estimated budget. So the estimated budget was, with a 10% contingency, was $956,015.50, and the proposed budget that's come back from the bidding is $898,400. So we have a savings on the overall project. The advantage that gives us is there's some flexibility to maybe enhance the scope, because 100% of this project is covered by the provincial grant. It's to our advantage to utilize all the funds that we've allocated to this project. And if that allows us to increase the scope as to possibly get phase 2 done of the parking lot, or additional trails, we can do those kinds of things as part of this. There are some details to the project itself, and again, it comes to 898. So the recommendation is that Tricor Projects Limited be selected as the winning bid for the tender. And so, Madam Mayor, I kept it as short as possible.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Vasilevich.
Yeah, that's all great and good. Just a question, where are they out of? Are they Winnipeg or local or within province at least?
Yeah,
They
Tricor's and Robertson, they do really good work. They're dirt movers, like they're really good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so, go ahead, Councillor
No,
Strand.
finish, I'll just ask the question.
Okay, well, I was just gonna ask if there was anything else that you needed to add, or are we gonna move a resolution forward today?
We will be, because we're confident as of yesterday that we will be covered in full costs, we'll be moving forward with a resolution to accept the recommendation of the consultants for
Okay.
the tender.
Okay, so if there, go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Okay, so this is under the 2.7 million grant.
Correct.
So if this is 900,000, let's use round numbers, are we confident we can do the other works that are required for drainage under that amount?
Yes. This is directly, when the Guns Creek project request was made, the costs were pulled out of this. So everything that's in here were in the Guns Creek request, broken down in the same fashion.
Okay. No, I just wanted to.
From our KGS report that was done for the engineering report for the estimates, that was the report that was used to submit to ISIP. It was the same report used to submit for the WMR grant, for the climate resiliency grant. The same numbers were used that were relevant for this part of the grant. And all of those are the same components that were put into the tender, which is a subset of the overall project.
Go ahead, Councillor.
So just so that I understand this, because I'm not very smart, this Duns Creek project starts at the Duns Creek, whatever, comes through there, it goes through this property where the pond's gonna be built,
Correct.
comes out of there, goes under Henderson Highway, we buy the land, and it goes into the river.
Correct.
And all that is 2.7 million.
Correct.
So we budgeted $900,000 that the municipality, out of our funds here every year, right? Or out of our working capital, like we budgeted for this, right? So does that mean like we got an extra $900,000 sitting here?
We actually borrowed for it.
Yeah, but I mean, if we don't spend it, we don't have to, right? But since we budgeted for it and it's worked into everything here, so now we could do more work on this project? Do we have to take the 900 on this project?
The 900 that the municipality is saving is a municipal savings. That'll be coming forward as part of my discussions with council as to what to do with my quarterly discussion on our budgeting plan. So imagine the 900,000 that was there, it's been put aside and it's not going to be spent.
Okay.
This 900,000 is part of the $2.7 million, and so it's to our advantage to spend up to the maximum of 2.7.
Yeah,
The thing is, there are costs associated with this project that were never anticipated. Land acquisition, which do not become
It's not eligible.
eligible for this project. So we'll have to take those
That's what my
costs.
question was gonna be.
So we have to take those costs of the land acquisition. Now, that comes back to my discussion with council for my quarterly review. I've been doing the review on our drainage budget, as well as I've been doing the review on our existing budgets to see where, and the revenues we've been generating to see what are the options available, that we have available, and that's the discussion we'll have with council in September.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, anybody else have any questions on this one? Sandra?
I just wanted to add, as being on the capital campaign, one of the things we discussed is having either a groundbreaking or a capital campaign kickoff.
Okay.
And I was told by Dave, I don't know if Dave discussed anything with you yet on that, or brought it up, but he just said to bring it to council and let it be the choice of all of us here at the table. So just with COVID on right now, our plan was to have an actual kickoff, you know, and have invite the neighbors and have a big event that way, more of a smaller festival thing. But with COVID, he said maybe that just that we would go with just having a groundbreaking as it started to progress more. And we could still introduce, because we have gotten money from a few of the Selkirk District. We are getting money from the South St. Clement seniors that have the money is going to be turned over. Like, so there are the province, we can invite them, like, you know, but if you wanted to have a photo op, I support it when it comes by. So he said just to bring that up.
Can I comment on that, Madam Mayor?
You go right ahead with that.
Great idea. Several things need to be done as part of that, would be my recommendation. These are some of the discussions I've been having is we need to have a proper communications plan when this project starts to deal with even some of the misinformation that might be occurring out there. Speaking to what is being delivered as part of this project, such as parking lot and those kinds of things that are coming along, what is happening with the lake, and how this creek is being designed. I think all of that together, if we select the Tricor right now, just like any other major capital project, my goal is that we should be communicating to all the residents before any machinery is coming out, and then also having some sort of a public announcement so that we also have key messages that we can share with our public as well as generally. And I will be speaking a little bit more to that in my CIO report.
Councillor Spicer.
So, just for clarity, are you looking for a resolution tonight?
Yes, sir, to select the winner of the tender process.
Do you have one ready?
Yes.
Yes.
So moved.
I'll second.
So let me read the resolution, Madam Mayor.
You have to read the resolution first, please.
Resolved, council accept the recommendations of Sketlith Miller Murray authorizing the CAO to award the tender for the South St. Clements Activity Center site development to Tricor Projects Limited in the amount of $898,400 plus GST.
Okay, I had a mover, Councillor Bazarowicz, Councillor Spicer second. Any further discussion on the matter? Go ahead, Councillor Bazarowicz.
Just, Councilor Strang had mentioned the seniors kicking something in. I wasn't even aware we had seniors in the South End anymore.
It's from previous.
I'm
They
not
were in
sure.
Donald School.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there is an active group at the moment.
Yeah, I didn't.
Well, I think a lot of them, from what I understood, is a lot of them are going to East St. Paul, and
Right.
hopefully when this building is done, they'll be coming back, so,
There's an active bank account.
yes. Okay, I have a mover, I have a seconder, this is really not to do with the seniors, this is to award the tender for the site development. So if there are no further questions, I will call the question, all those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. Okay, the next one is 6.2 on our agenda, and this is the Esri renewal, and that is our mapping, I don't know what you call it, software.
Mapping GIS software, Madam Mayor. I could certainly speak to this. This is
Sure.
something that was started back when I was at Red River, when I just left, which was that there's been one software purchase now that supplies GIS services to all 6 municipalities sharing the planning services. The planning, Red River Planning District is responsible for 40% of the costs associated to this project, and the other 60%, it was determined at the time, would be allocated by percentage of the population. So it was dependent on the population of the municipalities, and it was a percentage applied accordingly. So it was a split appropriately by municipality size. So the distribution was it was a 3-year contract, and it was approved, and it expires this year, and it was a static contract at the time. What has happened since then is that the price, they are looking at a 1.7% approximate price increase per year. So that's the new contract that's coming forward. But it's a significant change to the previous contract. It allows for more usage and gives a lot more flexibility to all municipalities for the number of creators and maintainers of the GIS software. We use this GIS software to put all our, not only do we have the parcels that we get from there, we have our addressing on this software, we are identifying subdivisions and subdivision information along with PDF files. We're also identifying sewer and water lines on this, as well as we're looking at assigning more. This is also our connection to the public, who can then view and see the GIS software. This turns into approximately, for the RM St. Clements, as we are the one of the larger municipalities in the area, our percentage contribution turns out to be about 13.33%. So our expenses will be $5,700 approximately on the, or sorry, $5,900 on the first year, $6,000 approximately on the second year, and $6,100 or $6,200 on the third year. Those are the numbers that it came forward. As comparison, we were paying $5,700 for the last 3 years. So if you'd like, I could certainly talk a little bit more about what the ArcGIS software can do. The agreement has been made available for you. Some of the capacities that current usage, general information as a municipal viewer. We have plans, conditional uses, variances on there. Sewer, signs, culverts, road data is on there, as well as digital valuation models. LiDAR data is available as well. Street map is on there, civic addresses. We have public access web map on there. As well as we could look at is putting in road signs, culvert data, water and sewer asset information, as well as, so when we put in any kind of newer sewer systems, we could put it in here. Shoreline inspections, so you can also use it for inspection purposes, as well as placing lot grading information and forms on there as well. So those are, I think at the end of the day, this is a great product. It's significant savings, and there's no way any one municipality would ever be able to afford the price of something like this as an enterprise license to also make it available to our public. So we have a resolution available, depending on if council chooses to move forward with this.
Yeah, I have a comment. Rob, did you have a question, or were
Just
you
a
ready
comment.
for, okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I used this when I was working in uniform, and it was wonderful to use. It was great in the field. We could log onto it as a public and find all kinds of information. Really good system.
Yeah. The only thing you know what, it kind of, and this is nothing, not gonna change my mind on it or anything, but I kind of had to laugh when they talk about that it was based on population. And I had kind of chuckled when it said like East St. Paul or West St. Paul, the population is only 11.05%. I'm not sure what year population they're looking at there, but I think their population is quite a bit higher. And then when you look at us, you know, we're at 22.39% of the population of the planning district. I think, you know, I know West St. Paul isn't close to us, but I think they're a lot more than it shows on here right at the present time. Just a comment.
You make a very good point, Madam Mayor. I think at that time, the population projections were based on the census data, and the new census has not been, and it was a debatable as to who would, which numbers you could rely on that everyone could agree to when the original deal was made.
Yeah.
So it's still basing it on the previous census data, which I think is about time to be
Should be pretty close.
yes.
Well, and the other thing that I thought of was, okay, if they did it on area of the municipality, we would be way up there compared to the others. So I'm good with it. So if you, oh, go ahead, Councillor Spicer, sorry.
Yeah, I think we should move forward. I
Yeah.
know municipalities that are paying more than 3 times that for systems that are similar.
Yeah, so I was just gonna ask our CAO to please read the resolution for us and move this forward.
Whereas the current Esri Regional Government Enterprise Agreement, formerly the Multi-Jurisdictional Small Local Government Enterprise Agreement, is expiring on December 5th, 2020, and the Red River Planning District, RRPD, has received a 3-year renewal proposal from Esri Canada with approximately 1.7% price increase year over year. And whereas the cost sharing between RRPD and the member municipalities would be consistent with the previous contract, the RRPD continues to cover the base cost of 40% with the remaining 60% contribution from the member municipalities based on population. Therefore, be it resolved that Council authorize the CAO to enter into a cost-sharing agreement with Red River Planning District for 3 years of 2021 for $5,984.15, 2022 for $6,090.29, and 2023 for $6,199.12.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Strang seconds. Any further discussion, questions, queries? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. So that takes us down to 6.3 on the agenda, which is the tax sale. Due to COVID, I guess things are not working as they should, but I'll let Deepak go into that one for us, please.
Yes, Madam Mayor, as you know, that there was a request by the provincial government due to COVID that all tax sales be suspended till September 21st. Council passed a resolution on April 7th deferring the tax sale recovery process. What we're looking at now is that in discussions with our tax service company that does the tax sale process, they said there isn't enough time to be able to process it by the end of the year. And so what we're looking at is to pass a resolution to adjourn the December 2nd tax sale process to March the 23rd, 2021. So in August, we can pass the resolution to do that. What this will do is give us enough opportunity to make sure that proper notices goes out and a proper tax sale process begins. Specifically to the, this would be for the 2019 tax sales, or 2020 tax sale for the 2019 year. Then there's the 2021 tax sale for the 2020 year. And so We will look, although that will also go out at some time in March of next year, what we will do is be able to still do a courtesy and deal with any deferrals at that time for 2021.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions or comments on the tax sale? I will ask you then, Deepak, to please read the resolution and we'll move this one forward.
Whereas due to COVID-19, the tax sale recovery was deferred by resolution 2020-128 on April 7, 2020. And whereas pursuant to section 3691C of the Municipal Act, a municipality may adjourn the auction of all properties offered for sale. Therefore, be it resolved that the Rural Municipality of St. Clements adjourn the tax sale scheduled for December 2nd, 2020 to March 23rd, 2021. And further be it resolved that pursuant to section 3692, a notice of adjournment be posted in the municipal office.
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Councillor Belanger, Councillor Strang seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay.
And
we are-
Madam Mayor, just for purposes, this is what the tax sale notice will be posted on our site.
Perfect, thank you for that. Okay, so we're at 6.4, and that is the personal development, and I will ask Deepak to go over that one. It's actually from Public Works, but I think Deepak has all the information.
Yes, this is dealing with, council has a policy that $1,000 per year is the limit for professional development. Debbie Roy of Public Works has been going through the MMA courses for this year, and the third and final course has been made available for her this year. And due to COVID-19, she has had the flexibility to be able to study it, to be able to put the focus on it. We're not sure when it'll be available next year, maybe sometime later in the year again. So she's requested whether she could take this and finish and get her certification as a CMMA. And in order to do that, we have to pass the resolution to accommodate extending beyond the 1,000 year limit. Now, she's offered two options, which is one that she would pay for and she could get reimbursed next year, or that council just reimburses this year. The Public Works Manager is recommending to reimburse this year, and he has the current budget to be able to accommodate that, and I'm in support of it.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions, comments?
We should just go through with it, yeah, let her take the course now.
Okay, if this is her last one, I would suggest that, it's in our best interest that she have it. It seems like she's going to be with us for a while, so Deepak, can I get you to please read the resolution?
Resolved, council accept the recommendation of the Public Works Manager and authorize the CAO to extend the personal development beyond the limit of $1,000 for the Public Works Clerk to allow her to register for the final CMMA course.
Can I have a mover, Councillor Spicer, Councillor Bazarowicz seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, and I believe the last one under our resolutions here is the request that came in yesterday or today for the noise extension. So Deepak, I will let you go through that one as we really didn't have an opportunity to look at it
Thank you, Madam.
earlier. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Almy is requesting to hold an outdoor wedding event on September the 5th, which will be from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. And what they're asking for is an ability to be able to get an extension of the noise bylaw to be able to have their party on their property. They have received approval for some fireworks that they're going to have as part of the wedding, as well as they've received approvals to be able to have a wedding on their own property. They will be abiding by all COVID rules, And what they're requesting for is a noise bylaw extension for us, to have that wedding on their property on September the 5th. The property is at 26 Michelle Street.
Okay, any questions or comments? I know we've had a few of these in the past. Go ahead, Sandra.
Do they notify the rest of the neighbors in the area? Even though it says on here that they've invited them, which is smart. But do they still, because you know how sound carries in the evening, are we still gonna get phone calls to some of the other, they have to do a notification so far away from their home, like within a certain distance?
You get an invite?
I think I'm out of the distance range.
As you can see, it's a fairly significant sized property,
Yeah.
and there won't be impacting many of the neighbors. But if that's what council wishes, we can certainly, as part of the approval, we could tell them to make sure that they communicate with their neighbors about the event happening so that it can minimize any noise complaints to the yard.
I'm just questioning, I don't know the process and everything, so that's why I was questioning. And you know, at nighttime how sound carries
Yes,
too. But
yes.
just so if, say, if Tyler's getting phone calls or something that,
Well, that was gonna be my point, is perhaps when we get these, that it simply is just passed on to bylaw, that if he gets a call, he's like, oh yeah, council sent me that last week, I'm aware that it's going on.
Right,
He may not even have to drive out, he may tell the caller it's been approved,
yes,
Yeah.
exactly,
right?
exactly.
They do get notified that there are certain requirements, you know, to keep the noise at reasonable levels and those kinds of things. Even though you have a noise bylaw approval to extend beyond 11 o'clock at night, doesn't mean that it's a rowdy and
Exactly.
disruptive type noise.
Right. Well, it's kind of funny, and kind of on a personal note, our neighbor stopped me as I was walking down the road one day, just to let me know that they are getting married in their yard at the end of September, and she's going around to all the neighbors to let them know that, you know, there will be more people around and things like that, so.
that's great though.
Yeah, what you say is very true, you know, it's, and I mean, they're relatively new in the area, I've only talked to them twice, I think, but yet she stopped me on the road just to let me know that, you know, we will have a few more people around this specific day, so,
So you didn't get invited?
not yet.
Crash
They
it.
can only have so many people, I guess I'm not one of those close few, but that's okay.
Wedding crashing.
Well, across the back of the.
Yeah.
Deepak, do you want to read the resolution for the one that's on the agenda, please?
Certainly, Madam Mayor. Whereas Mike Almy has made a request for a noise extension which is regulated under bylaw 7 of 2020 for the purpose of an outdoor wedding event on September 5th, 2020. Therefore, be it resolved that under Section 5 of Bylaw 7, 2020, permit the outdoor playing of music and other party-related activities for 3 hours past 11 p.m. at 26 Michelle Street on September 5th, 2020. Further, be it resolved, the property owner is responsible for nuisance noise created by invitees, guests, or other persons on the premise in the same manner as the person actually creating the nuisance noise, unless the property owners of the premises establishes that he exercised due diligence in a bona fide effort to control and abate such nuisance noise, which is basically identifying for the property owner that they're responsible for.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
perfect. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Horvath seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we are at our accounts and the financial statement. So we have our list of accounts for the period ending August the 25th. And I'll get Deepak to read the resolution, and then if there are any questions, we'll see where we can go with that.
Resolved, council approved the August 25th, 2020 list of accounts, check numbers 20201774 to 20202014 in the amount of $523,149.50 for payment.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, second. Councillor Horvath. Discussion, questions? Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
On page 6, there's a check for the South End Cops program for $3,000.
Okay,
And I believe last
Is it-
meeting, we
Correct.
passed a resolution for 1,500.
Correct, Counselor, aware of it, and I've already initiated to correct that. There was an error made on the part of staff to looking at the request and missed the resolution of council, which cut, because the original request was for 3,000 in council. So what we're doing is canceling and then reissuing or taking the money back.
Perfect, thank you.
okay, and there was one that I came across and it
Madam
was,
Mayor,
oh, go ahead, Councillor Bazarowicz,
just
sorry.
to tie up that loose end, I dropped off the check today.
The $1,500 check, so it's been fixed.
It's in the office.
Oh, you dropped off the old check.
The new,
New one.
so the old check was for 5,000. That was the error. Council had only approved
3,000.
50,000 or 3,000. Sorry.
So you dropped off the new check.
Correct.
Oh,
From
you
them,
sent
he
them
dropped
old
the check up? He
So
dropped the check back from them.
Yeah.
So you don't have to write another check, they just wrote us a check for 1,500.
That's right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay,
Correct.
go ahead, Sandra.
Number 2020-1944 CFL Environmental. On the listing here, there's a processing fee for the Dunning Transfer Station of almost $8,000. None of the other ones have it. Just wanted to, is that a one-time thing? Was it done for all of them?
CFL?
Yep. They were playing football at the transfer, I don't know. I
I
just saw that amount and I
Yeah.
thought, okay, well, none of the
Yeah,
other
that's-
ones have it, so.
And that is a large amount, so,
Yes.
Mr. Administrator, can you shed any light on that one for us?
I don't have the information at hand in front of me, but I can certainly get that and send an email out to all of council on what the check was about.
I just looked, there's no processing fee at any of the other ones, just
Oh,
at that one.
CFL, isn't that the company that picks up our garbage and all that kind of stuff?
That's GFL.
Oh, GFL, sorry.
You're close.
Maybe this is this a G up there, or is it looks like a
Maybe
C,
it's a
but anyways, it's
JFL.
not.
1954,
1944,
44?
yeah. And then there's all the listing of everything from the transfer stations, you'll see it's 7947.03. Those are check.
This is for CFL Environmental, it's disposal of water, but it's not just for Dunning, it's generally for, it's also got Clark in there and others.
But it does list
It does have a
Dunning
building.
for
$400, yeah.
$747 for a processing fee.
7947.03. But I just noticed.
794703, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll double check.
I don't know. And if it is, and that's the only one that it costs, it just like gives us more of a wake-up call.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Probably for all that rain and the water from the garbage.
And I guess I have one quick one, and I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. For the, training for EMO, that MAMEC conference in September. It's check number 2020-1832. And I guess it's to the people, but it looks like I'm going, there's two of me going. Who else put their hand up to go to that
I
one?
think Glenn was on.
Okay.
Yes.
So, okay, because I noticed there's two different GL numbers, but it's both in my name, so I said I,
One's his, right?
yeah.
We'll get that corrected.
Well, it doesn't matter, I guess it doesn't matter because the GL numbers are right, but I thought, you know, is it gonna confuse somebody at the other end and think I'm going twice, so. Okay, did we have the resolution with the mover
We
and the
did.
seconder?
We did.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments, queries? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. Okay, we have our financial statement as of July 31st, 20, and Deepak, did you want to comment on that at all?
Again, with the close list of council of financial statements, my plan is that this is the regular submission of the financial statements for council's information. Next month is our quarterly review of the overall financial health of the RN from my perspective.
Okay, having said that, and I know we have talked about that on and on, are you planning to do that health of the budget at the early meeting or not until, you're not here for the early meeting, so it's at the end of the month?
It'll be at the end of the month.
Okay,
I'll be here for the early meeting. I was
okay,
planning on taking the time off, but I'll attend the meeting.
okay,
But just to make sure that I take advantage of my time off still, I'll be doing it at the end of the month.
okay. It's just that I guess I have an indication on my calendar that we may not be in this building for that meeting.
That's a possibility, I guess, basically, depending on the planning applications that come forward at that time.
Right, okay. All right, it's just that I guess I'm kind of thinking that that budget discussion may be a little longer than, than fits into our regular meetings. So if we're having a committee meeting, perhaps we could do it at that time. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
Not a bad idea. We could certainly do, I could do a committee of the whole meeting as a discussion, just to have a discussion before we have a meeting on that. I can certainly prepare for that.
Okay, maybe we can talk about it a little bit later on in the agenda
Sure.
today. So, okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, so I'll read out the resolution. Resolve the July 31st, 2020 financial statement be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, Councillor Basarover seconds. Any discussion? Hearing, go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Looks to me like we're doing pretty good. But
We are.
I'll wait for your,
I think we're doing very good. The part of our discussion is what do we do with our good fortune?
Give you some ideas.
Sorry, sir?
We'll give you some ideas.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
I'm sure
He
we all have
might
ideas.
he might give you some ideas.
Yes.
Public Works always needs his trucks.
I will give you the ideas and we'll listen to yours and eventually I will accept whatever you tell me.
Okay, so for the financial statement, we have a mover, we have a seconder. Is there any further questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Okay, so we're down to 7.3 on our agenda, and that is the grants. And the first one we have is the GMCC grant, and I will let Deepak speak to that one, please.
The GMCC has made a request for a total of $25,000 for a grant. What they've identified as the reason for the increase is due to unforeseen maintenance costs. It's been difficult to determine based on the information provided today what those unforeseen costs are, other than that they have shown their 2020 and 2019 financial statements. Based on that, what I can tell you is that I've noticed that they do have $20,000 in the bank. Regardless of that, in looking at this, although they made a $25,000 request, council had budgeted $10,000 for grant purposes for the GMCC. So the administration's recommendation is to approve $10,000, not $25,000.
Questions, comments, queries? Go ahead, Councillor Spicer, and then Councillor Borges.
Sorry, I'm gonna do this to you. How much did we give them in 2019?
In 2019,
Oh, maybe it's on this.
yes it is, council
Sorry.
budgeted $15,000 in 2019,
So,
which was $5,000 for maintenance and $10,000 for grant, which is the same as 2020.
so maybe I'm oversimplifying this, but 2019 we did $15,000 and they had a profit of $9,600. That's the way I see this?
No,
They were,
Well, that's what their financial statement says, profit and loss through to December of 2019.
but it just sits in that account, and then that 9,000 pays out over the winter, all their expenses and all that stuff, that's why it's set up there, it looks like that, right, Dave?
Yeah.
Isn't that- That's how that is,
That's right.
yeah. It's not a proper financial statement, it's more of a working financial statement, if that makes sense, Dave.
Go ahead, Scott
Alright.
or Deepak. I know somebody wants to say something, so go ahead.
As in, they, what we see is that they have, they had additional funds available. What we can tell from their profit and loss is that they certainly have grants and funds received of $15,000, which is similar to what they budgeted this year. $10,000 in grants and $5,000 for operating, as what we would be recommending. So right now, we're recommending the $10,000 and the $5,000 comes in after the fact. In regards to the funds available, I don't have enough information from GMCC to date to be able to determine the kinds of details of how their books are being managed. All we receive is this information, and I don't feel confident enough to speak to how that information flowed in. I am having a meeting next week with GMCC and EBRA instead of the GMRA, but I'm also meeting with GMRA. But I'm meeting with the EBRA and
EBRC?
EBRC, sorry. EBRC and GMCC, and to determine what's happening and how the funding is occurring. Council does have a choice that this is a request. They've requested it early on. If you'd like to defer it until after that meeting, you can defer it till the September meeting.
That might be a good idea, eh, to defer it. What do you think? What was your meeting like? I missed that meeting, Dave, the last.
What did
one.
they tell you at the last GMCC?
Did they say they applied for this 25,000? Did they tell you that?
Yeah, well, they were just, it's not my decision as a one, you know, they
Yeah, no.
were wondering if the $25,000 is gonna be there, and I'm not gonna tell them yes or no.
Yeah,
But-
they did get, they applied for that government loan, when you get the loan for 40,000, and you get the 10,000, it's not like.
And then you give the
kind of
30 back.
free, you get the 30
Forgivable.
back, they have that set up there. So right now, I would only give them the 10 and let them see what happens to the end here, let them tough it out.
That's what I'm suggesting, and if
Yeah.
you take a look
Yeah,
at
I'm good with them.
their balance sheet for 2019, at December 31st, 2019, they had $20,371 sitting in the savings account.
I know this year, they did have other expenses, the sign in the front had problems, they had to fix that. The gate there, they had problems with the gate.
The heating system again.
Yeah, the heating system again, they were buying a lot more cleaning stuff for that kind of stuff, so maybe these little things, but I don't think it's in $25,000.
But the gate is an example, and that's why I need to sit down and then try to figure out what's happening there, because the gate was from that federal grant. They were paying for that out of that 40,000 that they received.
Yeah, they never mentioned that, yeah.
They were getting the software with that, remember?
Sorry? Yeah, they did out of the 10. the
You and I
10.
missed the previous.
Yeah, but when they were there that time, they were spending that 10 like drunken sailors. You know, like they wanted to spend it all, they had to spend it, and we said there at that meeting, you better save that money because something's gonna happen, you know, but.
Councilor Spicer?
I'm good with giving them the 10 and then Deepak can have a meeting with them and give them more information, and we can even take a look at the balance after that meeting if we're getting the information that's needed.
Yeah, that's a
I'm
good
good with
idea.
that.
Well, and I think the way we had originally started with these, I'm gonna call them additional funds, is that kind of closer to the end of the year, if it looked like they weren't gonna have enough to carry them through the winter, we would give them, you know, X number of dollars so that at least the hydro and all the bills were paid over the winter months when they had no money coming. So if that changed, then, you know, we might have to look at changing something here, but I think Deepak will find that out when he sits down with them next week. But that's how that, kind of that grant got going, because they never had enough at the end of the year to tide them over those couple of months or 3 months when they have no income coming in, so. Okay, I'm good with the 10, if you want to read the resolution, please, if we're all good with that.
Resolved, council approve the following 2020 requested grant, Grand Marais Community Central and RV Park, operating $10,000.
Can I have a mover? Councillor Strang, Councillor Sutherland seconds. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
I guess the other thing is just for when our CAO has the meeting to bring back more information of utilities, because that's one of the high charges here, and then supplies, repair, and maintenance, just to be a little bit more detailed on what those expenses, because those are their two things that are chewing up the money there. So something would have been a little bit more information on that would have been good.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Have a mover, have a seconder. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, then we have the,
Red River North 7.3.2.
yes, I kind of lost my spot here. 732 North Red River North Trails Association. And if you could comment on that one, please, Deepak.
Madam Mayor, we have some further good fortune. The Red River Trails Association has received confirmation that they are approved for the Building Communities Fund for an additional $20,000 to complete the project, which is that they've outlined here, which is the connection to by Coville North and the existing trail and connect the entire trail system, which was budgeted in our 2020 budget for $20,000. So they've late in the game just received another $20,000 the approval from Building Communities for the other $20,000, and they're prepared to go forward and have filled out the application to move forward on this. They're quite excited to do this. This will sort of close the gap that existed there, and will also provide the level of connectivity even for the local kids in the area, be able to connect to the school and have a trail system that they can use, not have to follow other roads. If you take a look at this, as along with the Coville sidewalk, that's a significant amount of active transportation being developed in the village area.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
Just so I got this right now, we had budgeted 20,000.
Correct.
There's a grant for 20,000, so
He'll be spending at least
it's not gonna cost
$40,000.
us anything.
We match it.
No, we match it.
We're matching.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's
okay.
actually
We're matching.
60,000 and there's two grants
I didn't
of
understand.
20,000 and then it's our 20,000.
Okay,
And that's right here, where it connects from across from,
yeah.
brings it over.
Yeah, it goes from Strathcona through the drain there to the track and then to the north, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can I have the resolution, please?
Resolved, council approve the following 2020 requested grant, Red River North Trails Association, $20,000.
Councillor Spicer moves, second. Councillor Strang, any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, so I think that's pretty much, we have no bylaws, but we do have communications for information. Mr. Administrator, was there anything that you wanted to touch on here?
The Green Municipal Fund,
Okay, that's 911.
yes, 911. They have authorized us for $16,000. You may recall an $18,000 request was put forward to look at the old burning pits, these Selkirk burning pits, and see if we could do an environmental impact assessment, determine how those lands could be used in the future. It's preliminary at this point, but they've given us confirmation that they are prepared to give us up to $16,000 and $16,050 towards the project. And so we will begin to start working towards that and negotiating with them.
Okay, go ahead, Councilor Wong.
I mean, that is good news. I mean, that's what the fund is there for. We applied for it, we were successful. It falls right in that category of the Brownsfield, so I mean, it pays for almost the entire Dillon project.
Right. Councilor Spicer.
So when reading this, unless I'm reading it differently, so I'm just checking. So we do the report, then that kind of makes us eligible for other fundings for possible cleanup through the FCM?
Correct.
Reclamation, yeah.
Depending on the type of development we're going to be doing and the kind of remediation we'll be doing. So it could be that the remediation is too expensive and you may be looking at capping and maybe using it for other purposes than residential. The highest level of remediation is always for residential purposes, for those types of lands.
The question I have though is they keep talking about burn pits.
Yeah, that's,
They weren't burn pits, they were dumps. It was a dump. It was a garbage dump.
It was a garbage dump, but
But they burned
they did burn some, back in the day, they used to burn a lot of it. It was garbage, but they could light it on fire. I remember the old Selkirk down there would smoke and smolder for,
Yeah, but it, to me, you know, to me, somebody reading this would not think that there was ever a garbage dump there, which was there. It was a dump.
yeah.
That's where I have a little bit of
yeah, I caught
difficulty.
that too.
Yeah, when they talk about burn pits, so I know it's for the East Selkirk, the former East Selkirk site on the north side of Harold, but, you know, it was more, to me, it was a dump, not a burn pit. So, and I don't know if that makes a difference anywhere along the way, you know, when they're doing their study or anything. Like, in my mind, you should never put anything into that ground there, where those dumps, where those holes were dug and garbage was dumped.
That was before you were born.
I remember it being there, believe it or not.
That's one of the things we'll learn as to how contaminated the site is.
Yeah.
Because they will, giving the project name isn't going to change the land and the use of that land from the past.
Yeah.
They call it brownfield or something.
Brownsfields, when you reclaim something and put it back into use.
Go ahead, Rob.
I mean, I don't know if Dillon has all they may, because we've had dialogue with them for years on this. Maybe we should let them know that they were garbage dumps that did burn at one time, but they burnt them. Dillon may not know that there was garbage there. I don't know, but it's information that they could use perhaps.
Yeah. Counselor Spicer.
I hate to date myself, but if Manitoba was anything like Saskatchewan in 1985, every Friday they went out there with the gas and diesel mix and burnt what was ever in the bed.
Absolutely, nothing was the same.
There's old pits there in Legal on 317, all those burning all the time.
All of
You'd go there, drop your garbage and light it on fire. Yeah.
That's
Mm-hmm.
possible. They'd go scurrying.
Yeah.
But
Anyways, just
I think at
just
the
a
end,
comment.
I think at the end of the day, once we have a better idea how contaminated the site is, then at least you can take a look at what are the reasonable land uses
Yes.
that can be applied to that, and then make a decision based on that. As an example, it may just become greenfield land for, you know,
Soccer field?
small park purposes, and that's it. We don't know. Or it becomes future industrial land capped and used for industrial or commercial purposes.
It was all burn pits, it just, some of it didn't get moved.
We could use industrial land, so.
Housing.
You couldn't do anything on it unless you removed everything, unless you capped it. I guess you could make a park out of it, but
Sure you could.
to have housing or anything, then you would have to excavate the whole thing, fill it in. I mean,
That's what
as you
they
said,
tell us.
Yeah, that's what they'll tell us when they do the
Yeah,
report.
because everything went in there, from dead animals to old cars to anything. I mean, you had your house, so you wanted to dump right down.
Yeah, that's right.
Eighth those, everybody
Yeah.
was.
Whatever we do though, we should monitor and track it, I mean, because when we're at different conferences, you often hear success stories and see these brownfield
Right.
reclamation projects come up.
Yes,
And whatever happens with this one, whatever we turn it into, it'd be nice to make sure we take lots of photos
Right.
and really document it well. So if we want to put a bit of a project together to show somebody what we did, it's there.
or put it in for an award through
Yeah.
FCM, through
Yeah.
Sustainable Communities, or whatever, whatever programs they have available, so. Okay, so is there anything that we need right now on this one, Deepak?
Just as information.
Thank you. Is there anything else that we wanted to talk about in these?
Not from my perspective, unless
No, I
council wants to.
didn't, nothing jumped out at myself either, so anybody else have anything,
No
Councilor
names
Spicer?
for 9.4.2 this year?
9 point, I think there was
Yes,
one.
we have one name for 9.4.2. This is something I learned being here, that the staff do track all previous senior administration and council members, and keep track of who will be attending this. In this case, this year, we will be submitting one name, Leo Dennis, who was on council from 1986 to 1992.
If anybody else can think of anybody who has passed away in the last year, just let Heather know, or Brett, let somebody at the office know. Go ahead,
I have
Councilor.
somebody sitting in this chair.
Was he not on last year's?
He would have been the year previous.
Yeah. If we look at our handbook from last year, I believe that he was in.
Yeah, I think he was.
Yeah.
You can say Spicer, holy hell.
No, I've moved. I've moved, I'm still around. Still breathing over here.
Sounds like a Monty Python.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, no, I believe that Ray was included in last year's when we did have our conference, so. Okay, like I say, if anybody thinks of any other former council members or administrators, then just let the office know, because I'm not sure, they don't have to be in until November the 10th, so.
There is one other, Madam Mayor, which
Sure.
is a notice, as you may recall from our last meeting, we had an adjournment on one of the applications, waiting to see if there was going to be enough appellants.
Right.
And so they did reach the number of appellants, and now it's going forward through Red River Planning. And so that's at 9.7.1.
So,
Go ahead, Councilor
just
Spicer.
process question, why is that? So we gave second reading, now there will be another hearing, but through the RRPD before we
Correct.
can get further.
Correct. And then it'll come back with direction from RRPD.
Okay, so now we are down to council reports. Oh,
Yeah, no, you're
sorry,
right.
go ahead.
Nope, that was it. Sorry. Council.
Okay. I thought maybe you found one more you wanted to share with us, so.
No.
Okay, I'm going to start today with Councilor Sutherland, please.
Okay. I don't have very much. So July 29th, we had our tabletop exercise at Merrill Fire Hall. E.M.O. Shelley Napier. I think it went very well, attended well, and we were all there, so I'll say about that. August 18th, the GMCC meeting. As far as the RV park, because that's what keeps GMCC afloat, as you'll see in the financials, like Fund 93,000 they collected. So there's 18 people on the waiting list, so we won't have trouble filling the park. Like it's full now. We have one seasonal site that we keep. It's, and somebody wants to come in for a week or a month, and we're also considering maybe we should just make it all, because the money's there, it's guaranteed, and instead of the 42 sites, make it 43. We're considering it. And we put the rates up this year to $22.50, which is not a lot, it's an extra $50. And
So that's seasonal,
was 2,200.
2250?
I think you can
This
leave
year
your
coming
trailer
up,
there.
this
And you
is,
can leave
the
it
rate's
there.
coming up, it'll be 2,250.
Very
Yeah.
popular.
And is there a charge for leaving your trailer there?
No,
No,
See,
that's
lots
in
of places are charging $300 and $400 to leave your trailer there, otherwise you pull them out so the spots can all be cleaned.
I see. No, you have that option, you can pull your trailer where and you leave it.
Maybe that's something
Price
that
is
they
the
can
same.
look at, even if it's,
they got a lot of competition there. There's another trailer court by the park there,
Yeah.
LGD, so I don't think it's a good move.
okay, no, just
Yeah.
that you hear about a lot of places that do
Yeah.
that, but.
Well, the good news, like I say, it keeps GMCC, I'm not gonna say afloat because, but it's, so there, like I say, there's 18 people on the waiting list, so
Can I also ask that one spot that you said that they keep open for more, is not a seasonal, is that booked up quite a bit too? Is it booked solid?
yes, but not solid. That's why we're considering maybe just, there's
But
so
they
many
get
people.
more money for that. Like, they make good money off of that. Like, if you come in,
Yeah.
it's so
For a
much a day,
weekend.
yeah.
I guess the other option is to look at, so what did they make this year that she will do a total?
That came up at our meeting.
Yeah.
So Susan's gonna get those numbers for us. That was one of the, and the previous meeting, Dave and I, neither one of us were there. But the seniors are, I guess, was anything said to you about the seniors renting the space there? That they were at the rec center now, you know, that dispute they have. Anyway,
I know, yes,
which
I
is,
can certainly feel, if you'd like, I can talk about that in mine.
yeah, that's fine. I just,
Maybe that should be.
but as I found out at this meeting, like they are renting space at GMCC, so it's more income. The only thing is like, and they know that, like they wanted to remodel the kitchen so they could do their, I think we talked about that previous, at the rec center, that they could use the kitchen and make their pierogies and what have you. Well, naturally, they can't do that, and so you can't remodel the kitchen, there's not enough space, and
At the
with the
GM
health codes, yeah, so, I don't know where they're going to make their pierogies, it doesn't matter, but they are renting the space now at GMCC. I can't tell you how much, we weren't at the last meeting, and I should have asked at this last one. I can, the next,
Who's the Amber? Who's
Arnie.
leaving? Arnie?
one of the girls in the office.
Oh,
She's-
okay.
Yeah. So, it's a little more income. Apparently, they've come to an agreement, and the fitness center is still operating. And they've got 173 members now, 41 active. So that's kind of the way that meeting went. And I was asked about, as I said before, the $25,000 grant, and I'm not going to give them any answers. It's not up to me, it's up to council. And we've already dealt with that, so. Anyway, that's that. And then the 19th, there was a Zoom meeting, information about Lockport Bridge. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Strang.
Okay, the morning of the 19th, well, I guess I also went on July 29th to the EMO course with Shelley here. It was actually very interesting to find out too that, when we look at emergency places that say there's no generators, that the one fire hall only has, so that's something to keep in mind. And I don't know if it'll be something that the other ones will be coming or wanting or needing at the fire halls too, but, yes?
I think the only reason that generator is there is because of the,
Lift station.
Lift station.
It wasn't there.
Okay,
It wasn't
otherwise it
there.
wasn't
yeah,
there,
that's, I was gonna mention that before we talked about that at the meeting, yeah.
Okay,
So
good to
that-
know
that's
too.
why it's at that fire hall.
So
Sorry.
if anybody, no, that's good information, because that didn't come out that day either, but, okay. We were actually joking around with it, whether the rest were gonna want. And on the 19th, I had in the morning, had a capital campaign meeting here at the RM. and we're trying to, going along on, with our campaign strategy, looking at possibly when the ground was gonna be broken. Our intention at first was to have a festival, but now with COVID that we can't have the gathering, we just thought that's why I brought it up previously, just to have a groundbreaking event and then still to have a festival again later on, that maybe in the springtime, something when we progress further. And I also, I came to the RN here for the St. Andrews Locking Down webinar, and I don't know, it just seems like from listening to them, and I think that's another thing that there needs to be more communication on. Because they're making the bridge so the traffic can go over there faster. Well, that's not something that I don't think that we want here at the table, neither does the community want. We would like to make it more into, and I know our CAO has brought up to them more of a destination area for Lockport, so I don't know, I think there has to be more communication, and I think there that say if we had Mr. Bazan come, that we could maybe sort of plug them with that, because I don't think that they haven't sent the tenders out there. Do they have anything that we could tweak anything up that we haven't really seen that to make it more, that we can put some blocks in there? Too bad they didn't have, like, how their approaches were gonna be. But I think the way that they have it, we are gonna have problems with our businesses, because ours are right, our driveways are right close there. On the other side in St. Andrews, theirs are a distance away, and there's not till their Skinners further down, or the turn off to the one street there.
Well, I think a
So,
couple of the.
We're gonna have the chaos on our side, I think.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I was sitting in on that meeting too, but I think that the people that are gonna be most affected, like the Lockport Grocery and Gaffers, they made it quite clear that that wasn't good for them, what was being proposed. So maybe there'll be some tweaking of the plan or some changes there. It's hard to say. Sorry for jumping in,
No, that's
Sandra.
good.
Malcolm Young did say that they would be taking that into consideration into their traffic management to make sure that there would be an opportunity to make left-hand turns on either side for traffic, so that it's not blocked and people are being restricted to cross the bridge.
I guess the thing is that with them doing that, they're gonna have a light at the bottom, or whether they have somebody controlling it. We already have chaos there in the summertime, because we have traffic backed up, and it's sitting there at Henderson Highway, and you're trying to get onto 44. Lots of times, the traffic is backed up to Half Moon there.
Well, and I mean, I'll just chirp again. We sent a letter to the minister asking what they were doing with that corner, because they bought the Lockport Appliance property. And we asked if whatever they were going to consider doing there, if we could be informed. I don't know how many months ago that was, and we've not heard back.
Years, not months.
Well, no, I'm talking about the most recent letter.
Since
that
they
was
purchased
sent.
it.
Since they, because they never had it, they just purchased it a year or so ago.
But I remember talking to one, I don't know who it was, one of them, and he said, I had asked him about a turnaround there, and he said it'll be a month.
That's
Yeah.
basically what, when I talked to Minister Schuler, that was what he was kind of hinting at too.
I remember them saying.
Traffic light.
One of the things when they were putting it in, it was on the news, and I'm still trying to find it in a little blurb, but they said putting in the traffic light is gonna cost more than putting in a turning circle. But yet we got told the opposite, because that's why spoke about a light there,
Yeah.
because it would be cheaper, but yet you heard the other thing, I think it was for the one that they were putting on Garvin Road or
Garvin Road.
something there.
I think there's a lot of speculation that go on, but you have to remember a traffic circle on that location has to accommodate semi-traffic, not just car traffic. And so the land acquisition alone would be significant. There are very few traffic circles out in Manitoba that accommodate semi-traffic.
Wait till number one highway has one.
Yeah, no kidding. Anything else on your report,
No,
Sandra?
that's
Sorry,
good.
we all kind of jumped in on this, so. Okay, Councilor Boulanger.
Just August 19th, last Wednesday, you and I had our Red River Planning district meeting in Selkirk. I did bring up to them again, and Debbie and I are both asking, I've asked, I'm wanting a meeting set up with Historic Resources Branch.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we as a council, if other councils so choose, like East St. Paul and West St. Paul, because whenever we bring up at river planning the issue of Historic Resources Branch, always stamping our subdivisions or whatever it may be with the, which I call just the generic stamp, that they want a study done. What I'm trying to do is sit down with them and say, you know, why don't you narrow it down to clearly a body of water like the Red River, or a place where our ancestors have traveled, instead of just stamping everything, because it's coming across their desk and I think they're just stamping everything. In the last one, I got Derek to bring the photo back up, and there's not a body of water anywhere near it, yet Historic Resources Branch is asking for this study to be done by the ratepayer, by the applicant. And until we get that dialogue with Historic Resources Branch, so I can look at somebody and ask them a question, why do you, like, we're not saying we're against it, we're just saying, don't just keep stamping everything when it's really not needed.
Yeah.
So the only way to do that is to look at them, talk to them, and find if we can come to a middle of the road where they say, yeah, you know, you're right. If it's on the river corridor, if it's on a bona fide creek, but these registered drains and such just do not need that stamp on it. So the only way to do it is talk.
Well, and I don't know, the last Jennifer, and I had talked to her after our meeting on Wednesday, but she has been chasing them and they're not really getting, I think the direction was that that Historic Resources was supposed to get a hold of our CAO to make the arrangements to come here. And they haven't gotten back to her, and I don't believe that they've gotten in touch with you. Have they?
Jennifer and I have been in communications, and we even put it on the agenda. We were under the impression they were willing to come to this meeting, and they were going to be, and we even offered to do it in camera so that there was a discussion with just council, and there was an agreement to come, but then no confirmation, continued, and haven't heard back. And Jennifer's been contacting them regularly.
I think it's a department that has basically one staff member, if that, and it could be a part-time person. So this could be part of our problem, right? If there's no support staff there, this one person that's getting this deluge of all these things is just pumping them out, stamp, pump it out. We'll see.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
That's it for
I
you?
think the thing that I don't like about it, like, I'm all for preserving our heritage, but if it's not done in, like, if you're just stamping it, like you say, I mean, it slows down development.
Yes.
Because I don't know what it is for a small lot, but I know that I had to do one in my previous lifetime for a project, and it was $2,300. So that's just another $2,300 on somebody trying to build a house.
Hard to give that up though if you want, you know, if you want, if they.
Well, I guess
You know,
some people would look at it, well, it's nothing if you're building a $500,000 house, but, I mean, it's just another thing that adds on to the cost of it, right?
for a rate or all those kind of rates.
Okay, Councillor Spicer, your turn.
So July 29th, the MOI exercise, I also attended at the fire hall. August 19th, I attended the St. Andrews Lockdown. It's interesting, and, you know, Councillor Strang brought up a few of the challenges that are gonna be there. I don't know if they're all gonna get addressed. It's gonna be pretty tough. It's limited area in there too, so. But I guess we'll have to follow how that goes. And then August the 20th, the Eastern District Municipal Court. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Bazar-Roche.
August 29th, I was in Merrill for the tabletop exercise with Shelley. August 11th, we had a personnel issue here with Deepak and Debbie. August 19th, the Lockport Dam Reynolds, yeah. No, they'll figure it out, I guess. August 20th, Eastern District in Granite Hills will be back in stock. That's it.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Horace.
I have 29th at Fire Hall, and that's it, nothing else.
Okay. And I have a few here. I always start with our last council meeting, so I have our July 28th meeting. Then I had a meeting, well, not I, there was an invitation came from Inspector Duff, the new inspector for the Selkirk RCMP. And I guess basically it was kind of an intro because he's new to the area. I mean, he's been around, but he's new to the area. He also talked about the name change for Easton and West St. Paul and the southern portion of St. Clements from the East St. Paul RCMP detachment to the Red River North detachment, and that's all gone through. He also did tell me that there has been an officer at the Grand Ray detachment for the summer, and the statistics were provided, and I'm not sure if they got on our agenda today or not. I can't remember seeing them. So if they didn't get on here, perhaps we can have them on our next agenda, please, Deepak. I think
Sure.
that was for the first quarter.
Yes.
And I didn't bring my copy with me, so, not very much, well, there's a few things going on in all areas, but I think, on the whole, we're kind of holding our own, so. Then on August the 12th, I had a Stead Glenmore co-op meeting, and this is the second one I've been to. This meeting was an update on ongoing project, and it was also their AGM. So there's a brief discussion on the survey that was done by St. Clements, and they were very pleased that we went out there and got that survey done as quickly as we did. They were looking forward to having the, I guess, the points put onto paper so they could see where the need for the cleaning of the drain had to go. So there were also no changes to the board, and they will continue to discuss ongoing issues with the municipality. They were pretty good when I was there. I didn't take any backup with me that meeting, so they were actually very good. August the 13th, I had a Red River North maintenance meeting, and the meeting was called to discuss the recently reissued RFP for ice breaking for the upcoming winter season. I guess basically I've had another meeting since then because the document that came out in the beginning of August was much different than the one issued earlier, much more detailed, and the province requested additional information. No decision was made, and I was the one that asked. I kind of said, well, I would like my CAO to review it to see like the different changes and everything, so Deepak has done that. So I had a meeting last Friday, and basically we still are no further ahead. We're not sure if we're going to put in a proposal. I'm of the opinion that we should put in a proposal if we are not one of the lucky proponents that they choose. Then at least we can say, well, we put in a proposal and they didn't choose us, so we can walk away and do the right thing. And if there's any assets or anything coming to the municipalities, we would split that. I think our CAO is of the same opinion that, you know, we shouldn't just walk away. I think that's the wrong thing to do. And I did have one of the board members agree with me that yes, we should put in a proposal. So it was left that the CAOs were going to try and sit down, the three CAOs. We're going to sit down with Daryl, the administrator for the North Red water maintenance, and see what they can come up with. And I'm not sure if there's been any arrangements made yet, because I know one CAO was away, so.
Question?
Go ahead.
Did anything happen with those machines? Like who owns them? Who's actually taking ownership?
The province owns 3 of them, we own 1 of them.
Still that way, so nothing's
Yeah,
changed.
nothing's changed in that respect, no.
The night account?
We still have it,
Can I elaborate a little bit on the
Sure.
machines?
yeah.
The RFP itself is requesting the proponents to buy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the concerns
Right.
that, and my recommendation was that you don't have to buy with your savings.
Nope.
You borrow to buy because it's equipment, it's a depreciating asset for one. And you should be able to, the charging back from those machines, once you sign the contract, would be your equity that you could take to the bank to borrow against those. No different than the GFL or Aptera, when they have to buy new trucks for a garbage contract. They're not gonna go and take their savings to buy it. The contract itself gives them the ability to buy it.
Councillor Spicer?
So what's the length of this request for contract then?
5 years, I think.
Yeah, the RFP is supposed to be for 5 years.
So I guess you could do the calculation if you had to buy them. Like
Exactly.
That all works out.
Councillor Belanche?
It's just frustrating that this program was such a unique program nationally, I'm gonna say, where you have government owning 3 of them as a partner, because government has a vested interest in keeping Manitoba safe in terms of its communities, in terms of the influx of water coming from the south, coming from the floodway that Mr. Duff Rodman built. Why wouldn't the provincial government be interested in protecting communities downstream?
Well,
Like
why
some-
did they get
like-
rid of their fire bombers, Rob?
No, I'm just,
No, but I mean, look at that. I would think to get rid of your fire bombers is a lot more risk than this.
the point I'm making is it's frustrating
It
that,
is.
that
It is,
you have the backing out of a project that was so unique, so. it's-
Yeah,
Could I possibly make a comment on that too, Madam Mayor?
sure, go right ahead.
My perception from the RFP is that they're not getting out, that they're just moving away from the requirement to manage
Okay,
and maintain the equipment, and what they're willing to do is pay for that service. So they want whoever is the proponent that wins it to get it. From what I can read, it looks like it's the current proponent, the current deliverer of the service has a significant advantage on this. So they have the ability to do a proper level of negotiation on this. I think it's just a matter of avoiding the concern that there's some other nefarious plan here. I think the province is just trying to get out of, from what I can tell, is the ongoing long-term management maintenance of depreciating asset that they want to put on someone else.
okay.
I can't see that.
If I was working there, that was what I'd be recommending.
Councillor Spicer?
But there will be a transfer of all liability with this too, right? Like,
That's
yes,
what I
they're involved, but not,
Well, they transfer the liability of these older machines over.
well, not just the machine, all liability.
To a certain extent, they're requesting for a level of liability insurance and a letter of credit to accommodate that.
Well, and I gotta say, as one of the board members, this was my take on it after having some discussion with Deepak. Whether we're one of the chosen proponents or not, I think we need to put in a proposal, because I would not want anybody to say, well, geez, they didn't even put in a proposal. If we put in a proposal, we're one of the good proponents, if we try and negotiate and we can't come to any agreement, then I have no problem with stepping away and saying, okay, we're done, because we can't negotiate with the province. But just to not put something in, I can't support
Well,
that.
that's a good.
We should do that.
Yeah.
You're right.
But is this a tender, or is this you put proposals?
It's RFP
Proposals.
Oh,
proposals,
proposals.
yeah, so.
So if they don't pick you, does that mean we're throwing the alphabet on Kijiji?
You're gonna pick some,
Actually, the one that the corporation owns, Daryl has a buyer for it if it falls through.
There you go.
Yeah, so, yeah.
We could use it to dredge some areas to create a boat launch.
That's another thing.
So anyway, so that's the story on that so far. Oh yes, on August the 17th, we had a South Basin Mayors and Reeves meeting. And I guess it was more to do with Lake Friendly and what we're going to do to try and get Lake Friendly back on the map and move things forward that Lake Friendly has put into place. We did have a speaker at that meeting, and they spoke about water quality trading, and it's all kind of new to me, so I'm still having a bit of trouble wrapping my head around, you know, water credits and things like that, but apparently it can be done, so. And that was when we found out that we had an opportunity to present yesterday at the federal, and I didn't realize it was federal, I thought it was the provincial conservative caucus that we were presenting to, and we walked in there yesterday, and it was, or I found out yesterday, it was the actual federal PC caucus, some of the members. There was, I guess there was about 6 or 8 of them. James Bazan was there, Marty Morantz, Larry McGuire, Candace Bergen, Dan Mazer, Ted Falk, Senator Don Plett, and Raquel Dancho were all there. So we did do a presentation. Colleen put a PowerPoint together and had a very good presentation on Lake Friendly. It didn't just cover our little area, it covered the basin where all the nutrients are coming from, where, you know, where everything is going, where it's coming from, how big it is. So I think we got their attention, so hopefully we'll make some headway with Lake Friendly and the trying to save Lake Winnipeg. August the 20th, WMR and John Q Executive. I did not go into that one, I attended virtually. We did the draft audit for both John Q and WMR. One thing I found that the auditor did was very good was he broke down every project that we're working on, showing what monies went in, what was spent. So that made it much easier for me to figure out where we were at. Also, legal counsel attended, and they are working on some clarification of duties for board members, and a review of policies and procedures will be brought forward. And I guess with COVID-19, they have made arrangements that if things change, come a little bit closer to fall, that all staff will be able to work from home. And they do receive funding from the province for the regional plan 2050, no change in the amount that we received. And then there was some discussion in camera about consulting fees and the building rental. So, and that's all I have, except I have one more that I want to share with you. Mayor Johansson had mentioned this the other day, but he kind of wanted nobody to, it was Friday, he didn't want anybody to say anything until after last night, because they did have a council meeting. He says, nomination is official, good to tell council, and please have them spread the good word. Larry Johansson is running for vice president at AMM. So he's put his hat in the ring for vice president, or he's going to be putting it in, but his council gave him a resolution of support last night. So he said it's now public information that we could share with everybody. And I don't have anything else.
I thought he was gonna announce he was giving us a grant or something.
Yeah, right.
So, or something.
I'm not even going there, Glenn, because
A grant for anything.
yeah.
Something.
Deepak, your turn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We are live now, so just so that everyone knows that. In regarding my meeting, or my report, I'll start off with talking about the AllNet informed us of a new system that they have just implemented. It's called the Alert Ready system, and it works perfectly with our Connect system. So normally what's happening is that we would be notified of Alert Ready situations, which are the more significant events that are happening, like tornadoes, significant ice storms, or any of these types of events. So we have the ability then to be able to initiate that through our Connect. So our Connect administrator would be notified if they're at home or wherever, and from there they could then initiate warning to our residents. And that was one of the main purposes of our Connect. Since then, what they've done is they've, in partnership with the federal and the provincial government, have created an emergency alert system that can be automated. We are going to implement this new plan, which allows us to notify citizens who are either on cell phones or without cell phones. So you already have seen the cell phone alerts that the province of Manitoba has initiated, which is the alert system, which gives you a warning. And now we can use that same system and send it out to our citizens who may not be on cell phones, but are on our Connect. It should be noted, one of the things we wanted to verify, would it be just severe calls or would it be, thunderstorm warning? And it is only, this would only include flood, tornado, hurricane, evacuation notices, amber alerts. So what it is a much more sophisticated and automated system that we can take advantage of. As well as amber alerts now will be able to be sent out through this program as well to our citizens, the same way that they go on people's cell phones. And so as part of this, we're implementing it. I wanted to let you know about it. And also to let you know that this Alert Ready, as we go forward, will also communicate over all our mediums that we're implementing this Alert Ready and let our citizens know. So when they start, I certainly caught my attention as to the tornado event and the horrific situation of those 2 young people dying. And this is one of those situations where there was on that situation, there was an alert sent, but not every person was available to send it automatically, or to send it. And here's a way of, if that ever happens in our community, our citizens will know immediately to hunker down or be aware of severe weather happening in the middle of the night or on a weekend. So I wanted to give you a heads up on it. We will, of course, communicate on an ongoing basis as we implement this. Next is the 2020 tax bills. Last time I told you that they were ready and they were ready to go out, and we just wanted to inform you. They have all been mailed. As a matter of fact, we've received ours through that mail, tax bills that we would have to process for the RM. So we received them, so that's a great check because they were all mailed out of Winnipeg, stuffed, all that. That was one of our significant sort of savings that we saw, and probably helped a lot with our own staff who are out, but to avoid having to stuff and process all those papers. Solid waste bylaw. I've had discussions as discussed last time. I was going to be talking Blueprint, and now that COVID at that time, we were hoping COVID was going to be getting better, but wanted to take into consideration the consultations in the fall. So I've had a long discussion with Blueprint as to what their priorities are, what are some of the things that we have going on with them, and how we move forward for the second part of their contract. And I can fill you in later on that as well. The next is so this fall we are starting the solid waste bylaw public consultations to discuss bringing in the solid waste and how we're looking at where we're going to look at possible savings and other things. Grant application. Wanted to talk about the project planning that has begun for the Gunns Creek. The part I wanted to make you aware of, the $2.7 million that was approved has to be spent by March 31st. And that's not a lot of time left. And so we need to get going on this project. So Scatliff Miller Murray, as the original designers and who have been the leads on the project so far, as an example, the $900,000 contract we just approved, will continue on as the lead as part of the project, and that they will also be utilized as to the design of this Gunns Creek. One of the discussions I've had with Scatliff Miller Murray is, I know it's a ditch, but it's a creek. So design it like a creek. So to make it much more aesthetically pleasing and not a straight line. And they will do that as part of this whole process, and natural vegetation and so forth, so that we can take advantage of that. That also then, as an example, if there's lands impacted by this, it makes them much more valuable because it looks like a creek as opposed to looks like a ditch. Part of this process, yes, sir.
Okay, I was gonna wait till you finish, but
Oh.
Councillor Basile, and Councillor Corbus.
Just that we have a deadline in here, how long is it gonna take us to get licensing from the province to go underneath the highway? And how long is that gonna take?
We anticipate the licensing should be relatively quick, considering this is a provincial project, approved project. The issue there was, and that's the second part of my point on this, is that we're going to go with KGS Group Professional Engineers, who were the, KGS Group were the professional engineers who did the scoping and the design originally as part of this project, and we're going to continue on with them with Scatliffe as a subcontractor to Scatliffe. I wanted to inform you that. I've even created a motion to address that today so that we can go forward so that KGS can get works immediately on the designs that we need to meet because we've got a time constraint. So that we can make the application for going under Henderson and any other approvals that we may need.
Councillor Corbus.
This design here, is that what it's gonna be, or is that just,
The lake is part of it, so what happens is where we had our announcement, the creek will start from there, and then it'll meander over to the lake. What the lake is the retention pond
yeah.
for management of the water as it goes.
But it's not gonna be exactly like this picture or whatever.
This lake, it'll be very close to that
Okay.
design.
Well, what I would just like to bring up is that when they do this design, they have to, like where they're gonna put the building and all that, that they kind of allow for future, that it's not gonna be, because the way I envision this someday, there'll probably be, whatever, but there'll probably be, if it's a community center or whatever, maybe there'll be a hockey rink there, or all those other kind of things. That's how I'm envisioning this will be as the population grows around there. That's, that there'll be baseball diamonds here, that they allot for that they don't put themselves in a situation where there's no room for that to expand and that to happen there.
Good points,
Makes
and
sense.
they are taking future recreation amenities into consideration,
Okay.
and the recreation master plan should help to inform
Yeah.
that part of it as we go further. Right now, what we're gonna have is site works, so there'll be lots of flexibility. When the building gets built, a lot of these things have become a little bit more concrete, and we'll have to address that. We still don't know where the building is going to be, but the site works will give you lots of amenities. The other advantage is now that we're doing this, what we're taking into consideration, that I've had the discussions with Scatliffe, is to make sure you take the lands into discussion, into consideration that are to the south from here, that are the Overdrew property lands that we bought that the RM would like to see as a conservation subdivision. So those lands could be drained into here. That means those lands, now that we built this lake, those lands are ready to develop now. Because we have drainage capacity, and we can build in a fashion that takes all that into consideration. We're not having to drain through anybody else's property anymore.
Yeah, that's really good
And
news.
so there's some significant opportunities. My hope is that as soon as we get this going, if this is part of my discussions for next month, is what I'd like to do is be able to go to an RFP by the late fall.
Well, we gotta
Or
get
somebody
a
to
historical study done first, because that's gonna be water.
If you're gonna
Please.
make it look like a creek,
But just please, so please do not
Dave's
leave
Creek, by the way.
any of your cooking utensils behind
Dave's
when you're hanging around the creek. So, that's our plan, and so what we're moving forward with is KGS for the detailed design and costing for this grant application as we move forward.
So they know that this could develop into a big community center thing in their.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So Scatliffe Miller Murray is, the advantage of them being on a standing contract with us is they have a lot of good history of all the requirements for the RM and how we move forward. So what we're doing is we're continuing on with them and then subcontracting out to KGS, who were the original designers of this study in the first place.
I guess the unfortunate part is we're gonna have two companies sucking the money out of the grant money, but
That was all costed out.
that was all costed out, okay.
If they're a subtrade to it, it's just like a project.
Yeah, so it's not new costs, and it shouldn't be, other than just maybe some escalations that we have to deal with, but right now, we're already under budget. The other part of this is that there are other things that are also coming into play. So some new information as part of this project is that we had received $75,000 as the building communities. Up until a few days ago, we were looking at sending that money back. That was the problems of the good fortunes of the RM. We received $75,000 for the same work that we received for the $2.7 million. I didn't get permission from council, but I decided to keep the 2.7. And what we're hoping to do with the 75, we talked with the province. They prefer if we took a look at it and see if there's other scoping that we could do. So Dave Kane is working on some scoping exercises right now. We'll take a look at maybe some play structures or some other things that can be added into the site works of this project, because we have to have at least, it's 50 cent dollars. So that's a building communities fund. So we received 75,000. We have $15,000 from, which was a requirement and needed outside funds available, which is from our foundation, from the Soccer Foundation. And so we would have to come up with $60,000. And that would give us a $150,000 project on this same site, over and above the 2.7 million that's being spent for this entire project. So that's wonderful news. That helps to further relieve it. On top of that, I still have that, once we, now that council has adopted or accepted the tender qualifications, now that construction company and our designer can take advantage of the other offer, which was the local company, the new resident to our community, who's offered 40 hours of his excavating services. So that is additional free work that we can apply to the project, such as expanding the parking lot. That would have been a future cost to the municipality, now that we can implement it in here. So our biggest risks right now in this entire project are, as Councillor Bessarowicz has already laid out, which is the approvals for access across Henderson and the acquisition of properties. That'll be my next priority for the next few weeks, to make sure we can get that under control. So if there's no other further questions on that part, I'll move on to Colonization Road rename request. There's been, as you may recall, there was a request to rename Colonization Road. It was a member from one of the surrounding municipalities who had requested the road name change. The original person, I don't think, was anywhere near our municipalities. But since that time, there was a discussion around council. We knew that there were significant costs and other things associated with it, and felt that maybe this wasn't the right time. Since then, this topic has taken on a significant dialogue and discussion over Facebook and other mediums and in the social media, and we felt it was important to bring it back, and brought in the definition of colonization from Google, which is the action or process settling among and establishing control over the indigenous people of an area. So that's where most people are having the significant issue with this. In the meantime, we've investigated, there's at least 7 or more property owners that are on Colonization Road that use that as part of their addressing and will be impacted. Any costs associated with the name change is the responsibility of the municipality, because we are doing the name change, if we do that name change. So what I'm doing is doing further investigation what those costs would be and how we can then, and to bring that back further to council. As an example, it's only $5 to change your license related information, but then there's your credit cards and all these other things that are going to change. What are the costs associated with it, and how do we make sure that we cover all those costs and identify those as the personal information that somebody made. And it might even be a business name or a business costs, depending on if somebody's running a business out of there. That is, if they have a business license. This might be a way to find out. I've also contacted, we've also contacted Fraser Stewart from the Heritage Committee to look at possible other suggested name changes if we were to look at name changes, so I could bring a complete package for council to review. But before we go in to do any kind of a name change, one of the other things that we've looked at, and I've contacted Chief Deborah Smith, being our neighboring community of Broken Head, and asked for further consultation, because in the past there was a request to change Colonization Road, and a request was made to Broken Head, and there wasn't any feedback back, and nothing happened of it, and that's why council hadn't acted last time. So this time, Chief Deborah Smith contacted me back and said she'd be willing to sit down, have me sit down with her council, and so the idea would be that I would go in there and let them know that this request has been made. It's from a member in most likely her community, and what we're doing is making sure that we do a government-to-government kind of a discussion here, and if we're going to take a lead on this, we'd like to make sure that we have support, that we don't add the name that we're going to be suggesting. We'll at least vet it with them, saying that these are the possible names, and if there's any concerns or comments on those, that we would be able to address that, so that we respect any sensitivities there may be, because the policy council has is the Heritage Committee does a review for street names and they suggest the names. So the Heritage Committee has suggested 3 names. I'd like to see if there isn't any sensitivities associated with those particular names. And then I will report back to council.
So
Any
would
questions
that-
on this
Would
one?
that be Road 132 or 174 or something like that?
Correct, it's Colonization Road, that
No,
section.
but what would the number be on the road?
There's several suggestions that council will make the final decision. And so some of them are names of previous settlers. So the Heritage Committee went in there, took a look, who made a significant impact on
Or
the
it could be
community.
just Road 1, whatever the road would be there. like-
Well,
You
no,
could, yes, you
it is
could.
numbered already on the other side of 59, I
Oh,
believe.
so why don't we just put it to that?
We could, that
Yeah.
could be something. I'll bring forward recommendations for council, and the council can make a
Take away the
decision on it.
colonization
I think it's,
and just
I
leave
thought it
it
was
whatever.
Road 84. It's the one
What?
just past the bridge on 59.
Oh, I know where colonization
Yeah.
road is, yeah, I've been on it,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
I thought there was more than 7 people on it.
there's no number associated with just it's Colonization Road.
Go
No
ahead.
number.
The thing is,
I know.
whether we do this or not, there's a possible, we're already spending money on it, whether we do it or not. Like, we're already taking up our administrator's time, we're talking about it here. It's like-
exactly.
But I guess the thing is, it did create quite a bit of dialogue. Unfortunately, it was on Facebook, and I had a call from, I believe maybe CBC about it, and I guess basically, and I wasn't trying to be smart about it or anything, but, you know, I said, you're asking us as a municipality to consider changing the road name. I said, I know that there are more than one colonization roads within the province of Manitoba. I said, there's one, I think, in either St. Andrews or the RM of Gimli. I said, so are you going to be requesting everyone who has a colonization road to do the same thing? She couldn't answer me.
This is only where it starts, it's one road, it's gonna be another road,
Go ahead, Dave.
and a building.
What disturbs me is, if it was Broken Head, First Nation, bringing this to us, then we should seriously, it's not, they didn't even get in contact with us the last time. It's one person, like when one person wants something changed, do we go that route? I would have a complete different take on this if it was Broken Head that was wanting us to do this. One person wants it changed, so we're going to, I really have a problem with that, I do.
Well,
It was more than one person initiated it, Councillor.
Well,
And it's
how
through
many?
social media, now there's dozens of people commenting on it. My goal is to go and talk to Broken Head and say, and ask for their support so that they are requesting this as well, so that we can do a government to government, and we can jointly make a movement towards changing this, and maybe make the first step in the province.
But the
I
bottom
think,
line
I
is,
think, I think
who
we
paid for
should, I think we should talk about this in camera too. I don't, if we're on, if this is whatever, it shouldn't be talked around the table, like this should be in camera. Definitely should be in
Good
camera.
point.
okay, so I know Councillor Strang has a comment and Councillor Spicer, but we'll wait till we go in camera then to further to the discussion. Deepak, what else do you have in your report, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and if you just give me a second, I'll bring it up. Okay, next issue is related with general meetings. I had a tour of Grand Marais from an economic development perspective. Next week is from a recreational perspective with Dave Kay. So with Gary Marshall and I met with some of the business owners, some of the local areas, and we also took a drive through the northern part of the community. So we went down, took a look at the docks, went down Baconia as well, and Balsam Bay and all those areas. Took a look at where are some development possible opportunities. We also took a look at, met with the business owners. It turned from a half-day tour to a full-day discussion just with the business owners. So there were some very good discussions, and I can certainly fill you in later on those discussions. We reviewed some of the economic development opportunities, and I can certainly tell you what are some of the top highlights of what they were requesting. But we've told them that we want to continue to work with them. There is some discussion also occurring on, there's some development opportunities as a possible future, and what some of my commitments are to that. The next is, I had a meeting that we've been participating in the regional planning with the CAOs. That was happened as well last month, as well as we all attended the St. Andrews Hockey Dam, and I attended the Eastern District Golf Tournament, as well as I had a Zoom meeting with Blueprint to determine the direction we're going, and I had a Zoom meeting with Scotland and Murray also to address the issues around this Guns Creek, but also how we move forward on a few other projects that we'll discuss in camera. And I had a very enlightening meeting yesterday afternoon with Rotary Club of Selkirk, and who have been very happy with the level of commitment this RM has given them. So they're looking at doing some level of investment on some type of project. And it may be a naming situation. So we discussed a lot around Sault Ste. Clements Center. We discussed possibly even something out in East Selkirk. And I discussed a little bit of some of the visions that I'm working on based on my dialogue with council about with some of the things we're looking at for Lockport as a destination area, how we're trying to support more development in the south end, look at a village concept for this for the East Selkirk area, and look at promoting recreation and support for the Grand Marais area, and so along with supporting other projects. So they took all that information away. They're going to come back and they're probably going to look at investing into something. So I said, any parts, whatever you're interested in. They wanted to know about some policies, and I shared some of that information.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything else?
That's the last.
Thank you. Heather, do you have anything that you would like to share with us today? Okay, I know that there is a resolution, but before we get get to that resolution on South St. Clements, I did get an email from earlier today from Jennifer over at Planning, and I don't know if any members of council here have heard any rumblings about that they're slow, that they're not getting back to people, that they're, you know, things are going a little bit sideways there. I guess I would like to tell everybody that, yes, things were a little sideways there because Jennifer got hit pretty hard because there was holidays, there was COVID-related absences at the office, there was medical absences at the office, there was bereavement absences at the office. So their turnaround time for permits went from 20 days to almost 30. Last week, they did some changing around, and as of today, and this is on the dashboard, so if anybody wants to check, you can go to their site, and as of today, fast track applications are turning around in 2 days, residential dwellings 18, accessory structures 19, renovations and additions 17, and inspections are still at 1 day. So if you phone today for a building inspection, someone will be out there tomorrow. This is on their website, and the little note she has here is in an effort to keep applicants and the public informed. RRPD will be posting a dashboard for permit processing and inspection timelines. This will be updated weekly, so things have turned around there, and I know some people still may not be happy. And there's a little bit of another blurb here, but there's one other line here I just wanted to read. Did you know that RRPD staff completed 348 inspections in July of 2020? So they are busy, they are trying to get as much done as they can. If you hear complaints, please let me know or let Jennifer know that someone has complained, because I think they are doing the best that they can given the circumstances of everything that's going on, COVID and other things that are happening. Councillor Boulanger.
If you hear complaints, make sure whoever you're getting a complaint from, that you tell them, make sure you send it to her or to somebody there. It's often we get complaints, but nobody does anything about it. Did you tell the planning board? Well, no, I never called her. Well, if you've got a complaint you're telling me, call the planning board and give it to the perfect people that can maybe give you answers.
Yeah, so, okay, you wanted to do 11.1, the resolution for South St. Clements, Deepak, before we go in camera.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so if you can read that, we'll get that off of our plate and then we'll keep going.
Whereas on June 19, 2020, the RM St. Clements made application for the Guns Creek Diversion Project with the province of Manitoba for the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region Disaster Prevention and Climate Resiliency Program. And whereas on July 23, 2020, the province of Manitoba announced the approval of 100% funding of $2.7 million for the Guns Creek Diversion Project, which must be complete by March 31st, 2021. Therefore, be it resolved that Council authorize the CAO to continue to retain the services of Scatler Miller Murray as the current designers and project lead, and to continue to use the original detailed design firm KGS Group for professional engineering services.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, second, please. Councillor Bazarowicz, any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, now we can go in camera, and there's not too much to discuss, so hopefully we can get through this, and then we'll have our supper break. We'll be back at 6 o'clock, Paul.
I thought we were leaving today.
Okay, we have to go in camera
I
first.
thought we were going to narrow today for some reason.
No, we had talked about it because of, if we had to have a public hearing on that rezoning, but because there's enough, there were enough objections, it's going over to planning.
Okay.
Okay, so in camera, mover please. Councillor Sutherland,
I haven't read it.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Second, Councillor Spicer, any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Sorry about that, Deepak.
No
Are we
worries.
still recording?
Yes, Heather?
Yeah, Heather will.
Wait till we're,
Heather will, shut it off.
What's for supper?
lasagna. We're doing pretty good on timeline.
I know.
I'm learning to speak less.
You're sitting in